This is the 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition and Festival. Welcome to the first day of the quarterfinals. I'm your host, Buddy Gray.
And I'm your co-host, Bridget Kibbe. We are broadcasting live from Caruth Auditorium here in Dallas, Texas.
And remember, if you're curious about our schedule for the quarterfinals, all you have to do is surf on over to cliburn.org. You'll find a list in order of the competitors and their repertoire for this round.
You can also visit the social media platforms of the Cliburn to actually learn more about these competitors, the repertoire they're playing, why they've chosen these pieces. We've had so much fun dialoguing about the programming behind the choices in each of these rounds, and you get to know a little bit about their souls and their biographies to see why they've chosen the repertoire they're performing for us.
This year, we're happy that our friends at Texas Ballet Theater are supporting the webcast through a generous donation by Ann T. and Robert M. Bass.
You also can support the Cliburn by going to cliburn.org and donating to ensure classical music's future and support for these amazing young artists.
Bridget, we're so happy to have you joining us
through
the quarterfinals. This is a different round, of course, with different requirements on the competitors. I want to get your take on this. One thing they have to do is a slow and lyrical work. What do you think that's showing the audience and the jury?
I think it's fantastic. This is a requirement because we really want to see the inner poetry of each of these artists. One thing we've noticed is that every single competitor has chops to burn. We want to know what their musical life, their interior life is like, and that lyricism on the piano and hearing the connections between the notes is really what creates the magic that we just lean in and want to listen.
Mm-hmm. And the other requirement is the first or last movement, or depending, the whole thing, of a classical sonata, any Mozart or Haydn, and then we gave a list of several Beethoven sonatas as well. What do you think about having a classical sonata? What is so telling about a classical sonata?
I am most looking forward to this, to be honest, because it really shows an architectural understanding of the repertoire and kind of sensing where a composer is coming from and where they're going. And that pacing and the voicing on the piano requires an incredible intellect, as well as the passion, of course, of that late classical style. But I think having a sense of the layout of a piece and the architecture is going to be very telling.
Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of people tend to say that Mozart is easy to play if you're 5 or if you're 95, but not in the middle of your life.
Yes.
It is so exposed to Haydn to a certain extent as well. There is nowhere to hide in that classical music for the piano. Our first competitor is Jan Schulmeister, who drew the unlucky number 1 at the opening draw, but he has proven to us that it doesn't need to be an unlucky number, because here he is in the quarterfinals. His classical sonata is the great Haydn E-flat sonata, and he'll play the first movement of that. Also, he has music by JANÁČEK, Debussy, and Liszt, the Hungarian Rhapsody in E major. Let's take just a minute and meet Jan Schulmeister.
My name is Jan Schulmeister, and I'm from Czech Republic, and I'm 16 years old. I'm the 6th generation of musicians. My mom is a pianist at the conservatory, and she's at the same time my teacher. I practiced about 5 hours a day. In Czech Republic, we have a specific type of school. So I have lessons through the whole day, and between that lessons I have a free time for practicing. Well, I'm looking just to enjoy it, to make wonderful music and to make new friends and so on.
That's Jan Schulmeister shortly to take the stage here in the quarterfinal round. Bridget, I noticed he's playing one of the chestnuts of the piano repertoire, which is one of your favorites, the Sunken Cathedral by Claude Debussy.
Yes, this is an amazing little depiction of old mythological cathedral that rises above the water off the coast of Brittany. When the sun rises, you can hear the bells, the chanting of the monks in the distance, and then of course this glorious rising of the cathedral, and then it goes and sinks below the water, and you think, did that really happen?
Right.
Right?
We're going to go to the stage now. Jan Schulmeister is going to start with Haydn, and then we'll hear that Debussy prelude. Here is Jan Schulmeister. Schulmeister getting this quarterfinal round started in grand style.
Oh, fabulous.
Czechian pianist, wonderful, wonderful performance of that Liszt Hungarian Rhapsody, and such a varied program.
It was really showed his beautiful strengths in the color and the voicings of the piano. He has such a lovely way of really excavating all the color potential of the instrument. It was beautiful to hear.
That Debussy Prélude, I thought, speaking of excavating colors and putting them on levels, and so he did a great job with that.
But even in the HAYDN, I think he was really perfectly crafting these pure phrases. Like you said, it really shows the purity of his sound. His playing always with that quality of warmth and sweetness throughout. Really nice.
So the requirement to do something lyrical in this round, not a problem for Jan Schulmeister. In the JANÁČEK, the movement of the JANÁČEK Sonata he chose was also very, very lyrical and tragic in a certain way. But he has a beautiful relationship to the instrument, I think. And he plays to his strengths.
Yes,
he is a poet at the keyboard. That is Jan Schulmeister, 16 years old, from Czechia. We're going to turn now to the performance by Yiran Zhou, 15, from China, who will give us three works. The first movement of the Beethoven E-flat Piano Sonata, Opus 7, that's a barn burner actually. For the lyrical work, LIEBERMANN Nocturne in, well, don't know what key it's in, but the Stravinsky three movements from Pétrouchka. Here's a little more about Yiran Zhou. Take a look.
My name is Yiran Zhou. I'm from Shanghai. I'm 15 years old. I started playing piano at 4 because my grandma, she loves music, she loves singing. When I was very young, she just sang to me. I practice a lot. I love music. I love opera. I want to come to Cliburn because I saw Yan. I love her. And I also love Chen, the gold medalist last year.
In just a few minutes, Yiran Zhou will take the stage here to be the second competitor in the quarterfinal round here at the 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition and Festival. Bridget, she's playing these three movements from Pétrouchka, which Stravinsky cobbled together actually for Arthur Rubinstein.
Oh, wow.
And Arthur Rubinstein did play it, but he sort of thinned out the textures a little bit. He simplified it just a little bit, not to speak ill of Arthur Rubinstein.
Good to know.
But in the time in which Arthur Rubinstein was playing this, no one could imagine playing every note in this transcription. It is fearsomely difficult. And I remember when I learned it myself, and I was old. I was 19 when I learned the three movements from Pétrouchka. Every bar was sort of a technical challenge. And it was one of those pieces where I grew a lot from learning it, but it was a woodshedding thing every day, and I had to really slow my process down to learn it. But what I want to talk about, I think, is making music dance. This is ballet music, after all.
Yes.
And we've talked a lot about rhythm, you and I.
Right.
So when you have a thicket of notes and technical problems, then how do you make it dance? Do you have to just get to a certain point with it or something?
I like how you talked about slowing it down because you can be overstimulated by what's on the page, right? Sonically and also technically, although these kids have no issues with that from what I've observed so far. I think in the case of Yiran Zhou, what I loved about her preliminary is the fact that she, even for the first piece, the Bach Prelude and Fugue, especially in the fugue, she was assigning characters to each line of that fugue. I think she thinks in characters. She loves, I think I'm remembering she loves reading detective novels. I think she likes to parse out personalities in the music. So I can imagine Pétrouchka being a perfect place for her to place these characters in color, in line, and of course in rhythm. This separates and distinguishes one thing from the next that's happening. And I think that's what's so exciting about this repertoire is that they're orchestrating in real time for us, aren't they?
They really are.
Really.
They really are. I was telling Stasik Iudnich last night, who was one of our intermission
Yes.
guests, this was his big piece, or one of his big pieces in the Cliburn, and he made the puppet come alive in Pétrouchka, and that's the whole thing, right?
Yes.
When you have a piece like this, which now 15-year-olds can just play it, no
Yes.
problem. It's about making the music come alive and
Yes.
being able to see those characters
Absolutely.
dance. Even the very first movement of it
Right.
is called Russian dance.
Right.
She also has this Beethoven sonata, which
Okay.
the first movement of it is basically a tarantella. So
There you go.
it has to dance as well.
Yes.
It's a lot to ask of a
Yes.
young person.
I think this is such an amazing round for that. We've gotten a lot of wow in that first round. And like you said, now we get a sense of their personality and how it melds with that technique and using the technique towards the personality, using that technique towards the musicianship to bring a piece alive to the audience.
And that's also true in a lyrical work, especially if that is a lyrical work that is not so well known, like
Yes.
Lowell Liebermann's Nocturnes. They're great piano pieces. There's nobody that writes better for the piano right now than Lowell. But they are not as well known as Chopin Nocturnes,
Yes.
so it takes a lot to put that
Yes.
across as well.
In essence, a lot of drama.
A
Am I
lot
right?
of drama. She's going to have a lot of drama. A tarantella, a nocturne, and then 3 movements from Pétrouchka. Yiran Zhou, 15 from China, has her work cut out for her in this round, but that is why she's a quarterfinalist in this Cliburn 2023 Junior Piano Competition and Festival. We're going to take you down to stage right now to await the appearance of Yiran Zhou. Yiran Zhou accepting the applause at this 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition and Festival, a strenuous program. She played Bridget of Beethoven and then Loa Liebermann, ending with the three movements from Pétrouchka. That she started really great with that Beethoven.
I thought she was so strong in the Beethoven, just really showed a command of the instrument and the terracing and dynamics the entire time, effortless playing, really a strong performance.
Absolutely, and then that beautiful Liebermann Nocturne, he writes so beautifully and so idiomatically, actually.
That's
for the
perfect
piano.
word.
He is one of our modern day composer pianists. He's also a really, really great pianist in public himself. Here is Yiran Zhou playing a little of the Stravinsky three movements from Pétrouchka, a fearsomely difficult piano virtuoso piece. It's not so easy to just play the piano in the orchestra in Pétrouchka.
I can't imagine.
Either. Okay, and then first this afternoon we saw competitor number one in this competition, Jan Schulmeister, 16 from Czechia. Here he is in just a few minutes ago playing his LISZT Hungarian Rhapsody in E major, which I thought was a perfect piece for him.
Oh, so stunning. The colors, the playfulness of the whimsy, all the poetry.
I think, yeah, he brings that to the table,
absolutely.
I think. Virtuoso is not something he is trying to be, even though he can
Absolutely.
be. He's doing it when he needs to. And that beautiful JANÁČEK he played, I was very moved by
I was moved by the fact
JANÁČEK.
that he had the most beautiful tones on top of the textures. He always maintains that beautiful bell tone and the treble of the piano while he's building the orchestration underneath it. That was really well crafted.
If you're just joining us, welcome to the webcast of the Cliburn Junior Piano Competition and Festival. I'm Buddy Bray.
I'm your co-host, Bridget Kibbe. We are broadcasting live from Caruth Auditorium in Dallas, Texas.
And remember, you can see an entire schedule of the quarter finalists, their names, where they're from, and their repertoire, and when they're playing it at cliburn.org.
And we highly recommend that you read more about these amazing competitors on the social media platforms of cliburn.org. And I must say, it is so fun to read about the festival that's happening around this wonderful competition as well. Each of the competitors and festival artists get to meet different artists from around the world through artist talks, interviews, masterclasses.
I went to one of those artist talks yesterday.
Yes.
Very, very good information that kids might not get anywhere else. It was in a great informal atmosphere. Just such a great time.
Meeting of the minds, if you will, right?
And you know what was interesting about going to that artist talk? It was at 5:15 in the afternoon, and there were two kids that were going to play in the evening, but they were at the artist talk. So, I mean, I couldn't do that.
They are
I
fearless.
Don't think.
These kids are fearless,
they
for
are
sure.
Pretty bulletproof, I think, these kids, when it comes to performing. Okay, it's going to be time for an interview here in just a moment, but I did want to tell you about the gift shop. The gift shop is a great place where there is some great new Cliburn merchandise. And the audience here at Caruth Auditorium is already going through that merchandise out in the lobby right now, but you can shop at home as well by going to shop.cliburn.org, or you can just scan the QR code on your screen, and that'll bring up the whole gift shop experience for you. Okay, in just a minute, we're going to talk to one of our distinguished jurors, Anton Nell, but we thought you'd like to have a look around Texas at the other arts happening around here. Take a look. How do I look? Oh, hi, we're back. I'm Buddy Bray. Welcome back to the webcast. And we're sitting here with Anton Nell, who's just on a break from listening to this marvelous music. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you.
Holding up pretty well?
Oh, it's a treat for us, absolutely.
Good. Now, what's it like to just listen and to have to listen very intently? Do you listen differently to a 13-year-old than you listen to a 23-year-old, do you think?
Yes and no. On the no part, you know, all of these youngsters, if we can call them that, they look, you know, they look so sweet and naive, but they've got such an incredible sense of purpose, and the level of playing is in such a mature, distinguished way that you forget that you're listening to a young person, and of course we all know, you know, that they are very much still being guided and nurtured by their teachers and mentors, but it's a real thrill to listen to them, that's for sure.
You are a genius pianist yourself, but you are also a very fine teacher. So do you think you listen as a teacher also? I see what's here, but I also see the potential that's there. Do you think that comes into your listening?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that because they each have such different strengths too. Obviously, I assumed, and I think I'm right, that every one of them is so highly developed technically already. So now it's, you know, the artistry that comes in. And of course, in this particular round, of course, everybody's being tested with the work from the classical period, which generally is a very, just like in the big competition where the Mozart concerto is the one that often shows an unexpected side of a competitor or not.
Revealing. It's a revealing.
That's right. I love it.
The Bach Prelude and Fugue as well can be super revealing.
Yes, I think it's a fantastic requirement. Yes.
Oh, you know, I was so interested in. I was listening to the Bach Preludes and Fugues so intently, actually, because you know we hear the word fugue and we panic, but these kids didn't seem to panic. I saw some of them trying to wring every last bit of music they could out of a fugue as if to forget that it was, you know, a fugue for a moment.
It's true because it's, you know, and it's the same for, you know, for music school auditions. It's the Bach requirement is always your sort of get out of jail free card. so I think this kind of thing. But you forget, you know, because you think, oh, potential memory slip, you know, counterpoint, heaven help us all. Not with these kids.
Not with these kids.
Nope.
All right, you are a very active pianist. I don't know actually how you fit in everything you do, but you seem to manage pretty well. You have a lively mix of everything. You play chamber music, you play solo recitals, you even play the forte piano and harpsichord now, and you do concerto dates. Is that intentional? Do you make a lively mix intentionally, or does it just come to you like that?
This may sound a little shocking, but I tell my students this too. You know, I like the piano. It's very nice, but I love music, and that's the difference. So I mean, for me, I'm not over all of this at all. I mean, I consider everything that I do such a privilege. So I will do everything that comes my way. Yes, but that doesn't mean to say that I don't have favorites. I mean, I don't exactly love playing recitals, and of course I do it, but I'm so happy with other people on stage. And I'm so interested in all kinds of music, so of course having this life of playing early music for the past 15 years or so has made such a difference in my whole perception of music and how I teach and how I listen, and so it's never dull, that's for sure, and it's always educational for me.
Was it intentional that you got involved in playing earlier instruments like the forte piano, for instance, or was that an accident too, a happy accident?
It was not really an accident. I have played the harpsichord for a long time, since I was 14, and there's a great man in Austin called Keith Womer who's in charge of the early music scene there, and he had this idea that I would take to the forte piano and invited me to play a Haydn and Mozart concerto with La Folia, with our group in Austin, and it was as if I had been missing out on something when I started to play the instrument, and it's become a big part of my life.
What do you think you discover in playing Haydn, Mozart, Beethoven even on the forte piano? What do you think is revealed when you play on an earlier instrument that they would have had?
Yes. For us who play the big piano, we forget that this is something that evolved from these instruments, and the music was written for an instrument that produces the sound in a very, very different way, and the sound has a different duration, the sonority is different. So suddenly when you play the forte piano, say you play a Mozart sonata, and when you play that same piece on a big piano, you're pulling your hair out because you're wondering, what are all these little articulation marks? What are all these things doing there? You know, so of course, you know, okay, we're just going to slur over the bar line because this doesn't work. This is a silly thing. So suddenly, the quick decay of the note on the forte piano, for example, the way the registers are naturally different and not even like on a big piano, all of this suddenly, and you have to allow yourself to let the piano show you, the forte piano show you how to do it. You mustn't try. The initial 10 minutes you are still trying to play it as if you're playing the Rachmaninoff third. it will just resign. It won't even bite back. It will just sort of sit back and say, okay, just crash and burn. I'll wait for you to get done, and then I'll show you. It shows you.
What about the key size?
Oh, yes.
That's something to get used to.
Absolutely. It's especially with my meat hooks. They always have to go to Jenny Craig before I get on the harpsichord and forte piano. But of course, they sort of grow gradually as you play on later and later forte pianos. They get longer, but it's a major adjustment.
For me, I've always found if I have to go from harpsichord to piano in the same concert, that's fine. That's easy. Harpsichord to piano, but piano to harpsichord is not quite as easy because then I feel a little bit like this.
Oh, yes.
So, all right, tell us about Aspen. What are you doing in Aspen this summer? You've been going for 25 years, is that right?
At least, yes. They are considering this my 25th anniversary, and I am so looking forward to it. The big sort of anniversary concert, as they call it, will have a Mozart piano quartet and some Debussy solo and the Bartok two-piano and percussion sonata with just, you know, a star-studded cast. Everybody was so pleased to play with me. I'm so honored.
And another member of our Cliburn family actually is playing that Bartok with you, I think. That's Joyce Young.
Joyce Young, who is a very near and dear person to me. So I'm very, very, very happy to have her.
Fantastic. And you teach also at the Aspen Festival.
I do. I have a class of students, and they give me lots of stuff to do. I also play harpsichord there now, so I do a lot of stuff. And of course, I'm out of the Texas heat and in the mountain air.
And you drive from Austin to Aspen
yes,
every
I
summer,
do.
and you love the drive.
I do. My car likes it too.
Are you going to, one of the things I look forward to on Facebook most, there are not a lot of things, but one thing I really do look forward to is to see your picture in Antonito, Colorado every summer. But you always take a picture in Antonito, your town.
Yes, this is it's a cute little town, but there's going to be an additional one. I guess I can give it away because I'm coming back via Lubbock this time. And people may not know that near Lubbock, about 20 miles, is a place called Anton, A-N-T-O-N, like my name, except of course in this state it's pronounced Anton.
Anton.
Yes.
So you'll have to stop and have a photo in Anton, of course?
That is the plan.
That's the plan. I'm sorry to have blown the surprise right here on the
Not
webcast.
at all.
Anton, it's such a pleasure to have you always. I hope we can trick you into coming back over and over and over again.
Well, it's always a joy to see you and to work for the foundation. I love it.
Great. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to show you a little bit about what our friends at the Texas Ballet Theater do all year long. Take a look.
So a piano is technically a percussion instrument. It's sort of a chain reaction of striking. When a pianist plays the key, they set in motion a system of levers which eventually catapults a piano hammer. It's just a felt-covered piece of wood that launches towards the strings, strikes the strings, sets them into vibration, and then that sets in motion the wooden soundboard underneath all the strings that creates all this. It's important to prepare the piano because the pianist will be pushing it to its limits and need to be able to rely on it like a race car driver would rely on their car to win a race. It needs to be able to have warmth and also brilliance at fortissimo and a a nice smooth gradient in between those dynamic extremes. And then the strings are held in place by tuning pins. You just wrap it around a steel pin with a hole in it. It's very old world technology.
We pianists could not get along without people like Alex Moore in our lives, taking care of the piano and keeping it in tip-top condition. Hope you enjoyed that video. Our next competitor in this Cliburn 2023 Junior Piano Competition and Festival is 13-year-old Eddison Chen. He's one of our two 13-year-olds that have advanced to the quarterfinals. We thought you'd like to meet him. He was great in this interview. Take a look.
My name is Eddison Chen. I'm 13 years old and I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. I actually learned the ligeti back in 2020. It was really hard to learn. It took me quite some time. In past competitions, usually I'd go to the competition, I'd meet these people, not know them very well. But in the Cliburn, it really is, a life journey. It's a life experience. It's a lot of things that many other competitions don't offer. I was looking forward to playing the piano, not just for playing the piano, but more like a learning experience.
That's 13-year-old Eddison Chen, who lives around Kansas City. Now, he was playing the Liszt Mephisto Waltz, I noticed, in that video, which, of course, he played so memorably in the preliminary
He
round.
completely wowed us yesterday. I mean, this kid has such an understanding of the music. It's unbelievable from start to finish. The Bach, just the architecture, playing, standing 20,000 feet above the piano and understanding what he's doing, but then executing flawlessly. It was magical.
Absolutely, and that ligeti etude that he played, dead on rhythm.
Beautiful.
I mean, he was just fantastic. And you can have a first impression of someone. He played that Bach, it was so great, and just like you said, he knew exactly what he was doing. He had that bird's eye view of it. Same deal in the ligeti. And then you think, I wonder if a personality like that can really let loose and just tear the piano to shreds.
Yes.
And he did.
He did.
In Mephisto Waltz.
Yes, and also translating out to the audience and being quite the performer. I think he really has all of these personality traits going for him.
We will take you down to stage now for Eddison Chen at this 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition and Festival. Turns out we had another minute to go or so.
We love to chat, buddy,
All right.
no problem.
I'll talk to you anytime. Okay, let's talk about the lyrical music that he's playing. He's
Yes.
going to do that beautiful Chopin D-flat
Yes.
nocturne, which, maybe people don't think they know, but the minute he starts it,
Okay.
everybody will know it. And it's one
Nice.
of those sort of Italianate melodies that just spins out
Nice.
forever. What's so hard about spinning a melody out forever, do you think?
Pacing and color and I think maybe the tendons between the notes that allows you to hear the spin as you carry a phrase from start to finish. Kind of knowing where you're going, but being in the moment, that paradox of the timing.
It's a lot.
Right?
It's a lot for a 13-year-old to handle. And he'll have a chance to do that in the Schumann Papillon,
Yes.
as well as his Haydn Sonata, which is going to be very charming. And he has Gershwin by way of Earl Wild to finish. Here, again, Eddison Chen at the 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition and Festival, coming to you live from the stage of Caruth Auditorium at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. That's 13-year-old Eddison Chen from the United States making an enormous hit with the audience. He's made some friends in the audience, don't you think?
Absolutely, already a fan favorite, I'm sure.
That Schumann Papillons was beautiful, right?
It was incredible. He has so much control over his colors and articulation on the piano. It's amazing to see that happen.
The other place I really thought he connected with the audience was in that Chopin Nocturne. He really had them in the Chopin.
Absolutely. I feel like the bell tones and the textures he created and the sustain. I mean, what the great thing about watching the webcast is we have this up-close vision of what he's doing on the piano, which is so magical. Really cool to see how, you know, in the HAYDN he had such a short articulation, and then when you get to the Chopin, you see the sustain, and you see him making choices in real time, how to use his fingers on the keys, and the lengths of the notes, and sustaining the sound, or, you know, quippy responses. It's really cool to watch.
I like the word quippy, and I like the word articulation. Let's drill down on that a minute, because I also noticed that in the HAYDN, and as you say, we have a great monitor. It's trained on the hands. We can see exactly what he's doing. But in HAYDN, even more so than in Mozart, I think articulation is super important to bring out the wit of the composer, to give that a lift and get that off the page.
And have the spin that happens in the trills that leads you to the next phrase, and the lilt of it, which I think he accomplished beautifully.
He really did, and I think he has a personality that cottons to HAYDN pretty well. That I think he probably has some irony in his personality and some amusement from afar, you know, in his personality, some observational comedy.
Has wit to burn.
In his personality. And of course he ended with that fantastic Gershwin / Earl Wild etude. Fantastic. Okay, if you're just joining us, this is the webcast of the 2023 Cliburn International Junior Piano Competition. I'm Buddy Bray.
I'm your co-host Bridget Kibbe, and we are broadcasting live from Caruth Auditorium in Dallas, Texas.
That wraps up the first concert, I think, of the quarter-final round. And remember, you can see a list of names and competitors and when they're playing at Cliburn.org.
You can also follow along on the social media platforms to read more about these incredible performers, their backstories, why they've chosen the programming they have, and also witness what festival activities are happening here on campus at SMU.
Bridget and I are happy to bring you this webcast, which is supported by the Texas Ballet Theater this year with a generous donation from Ann T. and Robert M. Bass.
But you too can support the Cliburn. And in fact, I would say the Cliburn.org is really an organization that is the standard bearer of classical music when it comes to the piano and beyond. And you could ensure that that happens with a generous donation to support the webcast and this competition.
Remember what Bridget said. And Bridget and I are going to be back ahead of the 7 p.m. Central start time of the second session of the quarterfinals. We will be back at 6:55 Central with a preview of what's coming up tonight. I'm Buddy Bray.
And I'm Bridget Kibbe, and we'll see you tonight.
Thanks so much for watching the Cliburn Junior. See you soon.